Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day outside in Southern California. Wasn't really a great day in Jacksonville for the Raiders. Ryan, the Raiders were up 17 points. Could not put it away. Since 2000, I believe, what was their record in that same situation every year? What was their record?
Before this year?
Before this year.
53-2.
53-2. So
they lost 3 this year.
So last week was a whole different other, sugar honey iced tea show, but this one takes the cake because it kind of encompasses what people have been talking about on Raider Twitter for years, and people go back and forth and say whatever they want to say. And on this show, we've kind of stayed out of it a little bit. We kind of just break everything down. But I mean, it's pretty clear that you sent a text to me that was very clear. That was like one of the things that summed it up very clearly, that why are we expecting the defense to play an entire game and not the offense? Because clearly this offense that was supposed to be the bell cow of what the Raiders were supposed to do this year could not play a full game.
Yeah, they got shut out in another half. They're up 20-10 at halftime. Should have been 24-7. It was 24-10. Carr missed an easy throw to Nuerdula, and that was kind of the unraveling. And we saw kind of the defense didn't show up at the end of the half. The big kick return. Again, if you have Daniel Carlson, and we talked about this at length last year, kick it in the end zone. Nothing bad happens when they start at the 25. But momentum started going. But yeah, it just at this point, you're 2-6. They've already held Waller out, who probably, I don't know if he could have played the last 2 weeks, but he's been practicing. I don't know the last time I've read a guy's practiced all 3 days for 2 weeks and hasn't played. Clearly, the rotation along the right tackle keeps continuing. This regime has always had an eye towards next year, whether we want to admit it or not, going all the way back to the moves that they made in the offseason. Going into the draft and then just not fortifying the offensive line or the defensive interior. But a whole new set of problems have come up. Derek Carr hasn't played well, and the defense is trash. Both can be true. There's an argument on Raiders Twitter that it's one or the other. It's both. And Derek Carr is being exposed right now. He might be dinged up. I like how that was floated out by the media today.
Yeah, I love that.
If you're dinged up, don't play. But you had a chance to go up 24-7 and you missed a wide open receiver. And then the offense basically didn't do anything. It was New Orleans all over again for the entire second half. Devontae Adams disappeared in the second half. I think Carr targeted him. It was 7 or 8 times, no completions. There was one where he had to jump up high over the middle on that last drive that theoretically could have been a drop, but the rest he just missed him. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to the risk taker in Derek Carr that doesn't exist. Like, he doesn't have that in him to go for the throw and throw the touchdowns. When you need another game, no 3 touchdowns. This is a broken record. The offensive line, I thought, did not play well. Derek Carr got hit 3 times today. Trevor Lawrence got hit 4, and the Raiders weren't around him the entire game. I know there was some pressure, but he's 30 years old. He's been injured. He is what he is at this point, and it's clear is he's not good enough to take this team where it needs to be, and this defense is nowhere near good enough to where it wants to take him in the next couple of years. So at this point, it looks like there's going to be a separation at the end of the year. I don't see how you can move forward with Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr both being around next year. It just can't happen. Like, there is no excuse for the coaching that we've seen through 8 games. But the quarterbacks regress. Let's be honest. This is nowhere near. 2016 was 6 years ago. 2016, Derek Carr is not coming back. So we need to stop thinking that it's in there somewhere when he was 24, 25 years old. But at the same time, what is going on with the offense? Like, I'm texting you the plays as they're happening. Like, let's run another toss where you motion Foster Moreau. We all know it's coming. The defense knows it coming. Hey, let's put Zamir White in for one play. Guess what? They're giving the ball to Zamir White, and again, we're going to run the same play with the toss. And then what really bothers me the most about this game was there was just once they got up 17-0, it was cruise control. How many 2nd and 10 plus checkdowns are we going to get? So it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 9. I don't know what happened on the last play. I don't know if that was a design. It's 4th and 17. For God's sake, throw the ball down the field. If it gets intercepted, the game's over. You can't throw a swing pass unless it was a design play. I'll have to see the all 22. But it didn't look like they were set up to run any sort of like throw it across the field, Stanford, Cal game from the 70s. It looked like it was literally a give up on 4th and 17. On 3rd and 2 on the last drive, you throw the ball out of bounds and don't even give Adams a chance to make a back shoulder throw. Like, what are we doing? Stop throwing the ball out of bounds, especially at end of the game situation. So,
and you can
I've seen enough for this year.
Yeah,
I'm ready to move forward.
Oh yeah.
I know this is going to suck. The Raiders aren't going to be good for a few years. They're not good now. Let's get over that concept. But give me the young, mobile quarterback. It's going to take time to develop. I don't want to hear about years in a system. I can look all around the league. Kirk Cousins is his first year in a system. They're 7-1. Tua's first years in a system. He hasn't lost as the quarterback, or maybe one loss. But it's not any more than that. Like, there's guys all over the league in new systems. So let's stop that narrative. Yes, the offensive line sucks. No, they couldn't really run the ball today. But we need to stop making excuses for everyone on this roster.
The scholarship time is over. And scholarships are over. And you could hear the Raider in James Lofton trying to will the Raiders in this game. And he even said it to on the throwaway you're talking about with Devontae Adams. You got to give him a chance. You can't just throw the ball out of bounds. He is so ready to throw the ball out of bounds all the time. I mean, just can you practice throwing the ball? You have two receivers who are 6'4" and taller. Can you practice throwing the ball high to them? Most DBs are 5'11" in the National Football League. If they're over 5'11", they usually play offense. Why can't you give those guys a chance? I couldn't at the 12, and even in the third and just get the first down. It's first and 2. I mean, sorry, it's first and
2nd and 2.
The 2nd and 2. Run the football there. I mean, just run. I mean, just get the.
I text you that right before
that. I just can't in that situation. And how about we do something really crazy, like give Zamir White a series. Like you drafted him this high. Now I guarantee you we're gonna see it now. But like, give the kid a series instead of just one play, and then say, okay, Josh Jacobs. And what about Carr? And you texted to me, and I was like, you can see like 3 or 4 runs in a row by Josh Jacobs. He is like, it's hot as hell. He's gassed. He even talked about before the game that he was getting a bunch of IVs because he didn't want to cramp up in the game. And then we're sitting here give him the ball on third and 12. Like, I'm sorry, on 2nd and 12. Like, he's so he just he don't want it. I mean, and then it's just like the money's good. I mean, the money that the check comes, it's all good. But I mean, as far as like in game, like, you got to have plays. He's just not going to do it. And there are plays where he'll always tease you. The throw to Renfro on the side, the a throw to Adams, a nice throw where he steps up in the pocket and gets the ball to Moreau. He'll always tease you, but when the game is on the line, to see it consistently, you're just never going to see it consistently, and that's going to be the problem. So it's been 9. Like, I don't think Josh McDaniels is going anywhere. I don't think his staff is going anywhere. Maybe Graham goes. I don't know. I don't think Ziegler's going anywhere. I think they ride this out for the year, and then they just try to build it, quote unquote, their way, which means you better find a Brady because Brady got everybody paid.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that McDaniels is safe here at the end of the year. If you would have asked me a week or two ago, I would have said they probably were back. This team is not going to win 6 or 7 games this year. Let's be honest. The way that they're playing right now, they haven't done it in a single game all year, other than that late explosion against the Texans. But that game was closer than it should have been. And in the Broncos game, they kind of let the Broncos back into it. They haven't
5
stepped on anyone's throat the entire
Yeah.
year. They're 0-5 on the road. These are embarrassing losses. I don't think Mark Davis, if this happens 2 or 3 more times this year where they just don't show up, like the Saints game where they lose big leads, I mean, Mark Davis has every right to move on from this coaching staff. And I was a Patrick Graham guy just like you, but like his blitzes, you can see them coming from a mile away. We're dropping Max Crosby on third down. Chandler Jones has been invisible. Now we're moving him inside and rushing as a defensive tackle and having Farrell rush outside of him. Malcolm Kuntz got a couple more chances, got blown up in the run game on a couple of plays. The linebackers are nowhere to be found. The secondary players aren't any good. They're already phasing out Jonathan Abram. Trayvon Merrick has regressed to now where he's basically, he's not even a league average player at this point. Like he's literally just not showing up. It's 1 week he's good, and then he has 3 weeks where he's bad. Anthony Averett looks like a 5th or 6th corner at this point. Like he can't cover anybody. Nicole Roby-Coleman came in at some point. I don't know if there was an injury to Robertson. I would think there would, but Robertson didn't finish this game. Other than Rock Ya-Sin, Max Crosby, and Nate Hobbs, I don't think any of these guys deserve a chance to be handed a starting job going into next year. That's how bad this defense has performed. But on the other side, I just don't see enough time to build up one side or the other. There's not enough time to fortify the offensive line and get the defense up to speed in the next 2 or 3 years in that window to really compete for a championship. If you want to try to get into a wild card, that's one thing. So, and there's not enough time to build up the defense if you want to make changes on it quarterback. So like at this point, you just have to rebuild both of them. You got to start over and get draft picks. It's a week past the deadline. If those reports are true, they were offered a 2nd-round pick for Darren Waller from Green Bay and didn't take it. I don't know what to think of this front office regime. Like they went all in on Chandler Jones. They went all in to acquire Devontae Adams. They gave everyone these extensions. They paid Derek Carr. And now they're telling us, oh, we're optimistic. We're happy. We're 2-5. We're going in the right direction. And then they lay an egg against Jacksonville. So I don't know what to think of this regime. Like we want to trust them because they were good in New England, but I just can't trust them that they're going to make the right decisions. They saw the film. They knew what was on this roster. And they said, we're going for it. Now they can't have it both ways. And what we're really seeing that no one really wants to talk about, and we've talked about for 2 years on the show, this goes back to 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Those draft picks aren't panning out. None of them, other than Hobbs and Crosby. So there's no depth on this team. The only way to patch the holes is with expensive free agents that aren't panning out, that have never panned out. This team needs to be broken down and built through the draft, as sad as that says. But 2 3 drafts can really build this team up. Then you go get the 1 or 2 pieces. You can't keep putting duct tape all over the bow on this boat that's sinking because there's no young talent on this roster. Yeah. They're an old, expensive, bad football team.
No question about it. And I think last week I knew it was over when Albert Breer, who is good buddies with McDaniels, was basically on all the TV shows saying, hey, they're saying a lot of positive things about the Raiders. And I was like, okay. He sent his homie, because all head coaches have media homies, and he sent him out there to go out there and kind of put the fire away. But the only way the fire can go away is if you start winning games. Again, this is not controversy here. You have a head coach who is well under 500 as a head coach. You have a quarterback who is miles below 500. Those guys can be criticized, and if people want to see them replaced, they should be replaced. I mean, it's just that simple. A question for you is, how much money, dead cap wise, would the Raiders have if they try to move on from Chandler Jones?
His whole salary is guaranteed next year, so I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can look it up real quick. I want to say it's in the $19-20 million range. I don't think you can do that. I think you just got to ride it out one more year, and hopefully you just use him as a situational player. But you can't go into the season and say, this is our starting defensive end. If they release him next year in the offseason, if they designate him a post-June 1, it's an $18 million cap hit. Pre-June 1st, $25.6 million cap dead money. He's on the roster next year, whether you like it or not.
Well, he's on there. It's just no way they can go forward. I do think. I mean, and then you have next week. Is next week a home game with Sam Ellinger at quarterback?
Yes.
I mean, first of all, plenty of tickets available for that one. If you want to go see the Colts and Raiders next, I mean, I thought that would be a great game at the beginning of the season, but it's not. It turned out to be a horrible game. And what did they score this week against the Patriots? What was that score again? I can't. It's the Patriots.
26-3.
They've done nothing with Sam. They're just trying to. They're trying to go in the same direction that they should have gone. They just. I mean, they're just moving on from everything and just trying to get as high a draft pick as humanly possible. It would seem like. I mean, you would think so. So
that coaching staff's not coming back.
No, nobody's coming back. I mean, they're going to blow.
The Colts.
No, the Colts are blowing everything up. This could be a situation where it's like that Arizona Cardinals game. The Raiders, it's probably in their best interest not to win this game. I mean, I don't want to go. I mean, I know how bad 2-15 is going to look, but I mean, it can't be much worse than this. As bad as the defense is, and as bad as and like listen, they have been disappointing in every way. And even the roster construction by letting go of Phillips and getting rid of what we thought was going to be getting rid of Mullen for no kind of just like because they could have held on to Mullen, I thought as well too. We talked about that. They gave this offense plenty of times to come down the field and either score a touchdown, hit a field goal, whatever, and they just couldn't do it. And I think that's when it's just not there. I mean, after Renfro fumbled that ball, I mean, you kind of knew that maybe this wasn't the year. That's a hard loss to come back from, because when you're losing games like that, it just kind of just become a thing in your locker room, become a thing in your organization. We lose these games, and that's you can't get worse than that. I mean, you can't get worse than what's going on. I believe somebody tweeted the other day. I just want to lose in a different way. Because they want to see. It's a cool way of putting it. Like at the pain of being a Raiders fan. It's just bad football and bad football all the way around. Maybe it's part of it. Maybe part of it is with Patrick Graham. He doesn't the money resources hasn't been allocated to his side of the football. I don't know. I still see bad. To me, that's still no excuse for some of the tackling I see. Like the tackling should be. The tackling I see has been horrible. The kind of the obvious second down and long blitzes that don't get there from depth, all those things like that. I mean, it's just like you gotta the four what teams are like 16 for 16 in the red zone against the Raiders for touchdowns. Like it's bad. I mean, that's
bad.
That's last time I checked, that's pretty bad. So you got to figure something out there. I mean, maybe you have to do the Brian Flores route and go back to being a position coach and then coming back to be a DC later on. Maybe that'll help. But right now, I don't think I agree with you. I mean, I'm thinking that he's coming back, but I do think that and I also feel like with the myriad of coaches who are first-year coaches having success, it might be time to just kind of move in that direction. I mean, it really is. These second guy, even though Peterson won today, they're still 3-6 and going nowhere fast. So I don't know. It's a tough watch right now. Tough watch.
I mean, I'm just looking at some numbers. This highly paid offense. This is why the Raiders can't win. Their offense went 3 for 12 on third down. That is completely unacceptable with the players they have on offense and what you're paying them. The defense allowed 9 of 15, which again, it was a lot of third and short, but at some point you have to get off. They can't stay on the field and they can't get off the field. They can't stop the run. Mm-hmm. Jacksonville, I didn't realize this watching the game. I'm going to read you their rushing yards. They ran 37 times for 168 yards. But go ahead, move Jonathan Hankins, who is your best inside guy for a 6th or 7th round pick. I can't give Patrick Graham a pass here because this defense isn't a bunch of leftovers from last year. They went out, they got Bilal Nichols, who's done absolutely nothing. They decided they wanted Nero Farrell and move on from Jonathan Hankins. They decided they wanted to draft Matthew Butler. They brought in all those free agent defensive tackles that none of them panned out. They went out and got Chandler Jones, who Patrick Graham was with, and New England went along with Ziegler. They went out and got Averett. They went out and got Rock Ya-Sin, who's actually played well. They went out. They have Blake Martinez, who knows the system. They went out and got Jayon Brand, who's a healthy scratch. Like their fingerprints are all over this defense. This isn't the cupboard was bare when we got here. They brought these guys in.
No.
So
he brought his guys in, and plus the Raiders did get pass rush from defensive tackles last year that you could have. I know they maybe not fit your system, but people like Jefferson, people like that could have. I mean, like they could have. You can't fitting the system is third and long. They could have rushed the passer. I mean, they're not every down players, but I mean, sitting here watching, Jonathan Hankins run stuff for the Cowboys is not really. It wasn't a good enough. Wasn't a trade that should have even happened. These guys, they could have these young defensive tackles. Like if you're like they're not showing us anything. So why would you make that move? Making that move made no sense. Like to me, especially with the running backs they had coming up. I mean, the run heavy teams they had. It is weird though. I didn't realize they ran for that much in that game either. That was kind of crazy. But the reason why, and even when they do get I think Cleveland Farrell had a nice hit on Trevor Lawrence in that game. On Lawrence in that game, but when people are roaming free wide open, he doesn't have to even finish that throw, and the guys is going to be on target because people are wide open down the field. So I don't know. I mean, Crosby's by himself rushing the passer. Nobody else is a threat to get pressure. Chandler Jones looks like he's like 85 years old trying to run down a grandkid, trying to run down Trevor Lawrence on some of these plays. It's just not good. It's just terrible. It's terrible. And then I don't know.
I think too, if the season, they have 6 losses, they're not going to make. They're 2-6, and they're not competing at all for 60 minutes. So the playoffs is out the window. Where's Tayshaun Bauer? The guy got 4 sacks in the preseason. He's a young guy. He's physical. He can set the edge. Now he's not going to be a Pro Bowl type player at all, but like, where are his reps? Malcolm Kuntz has got some, not a lot, but he's gotten some. He hasn't done anything with them. Let's rotate these guys in. Why is Max Crosby rushing from defensive tackle on some of these? Why is he dropping into coverage when he's your only pass rush guy? Why do they continue to blitz? Like when the corners are coming and Merrick is lined up like directly behind the corner and everyone that's watching the TV knows what's coming, they're still coming from depth. They have no chance to get there. Amik Robertson comes clean, doesn't even get a hand on Trevor Lawrence. So some of this is players, but some of this is scheme. We've been seeing the exact same stuff not work the entire year, and we just think we're just going to keep calling it. It's going to work. Patrick Graham has really disappointed me over the last couple of weeks. Josh McDaniels has had flashes, but overall, I would say it's a major disappointment because of the talent he has at his disposal. But we don't need press conferences where the GM is telling us everything is hunky-dory when you're 2-5 and you haven't played one good football game yet, and then telling us what a great job the coach is doing when we know why there's not a sense of urgency. Leadership is a problem in that locker room, and it has been for a long time that we've talked about. I don't care what they come out and say. Like, good teams don't allow what happens to the Raiders to happen over and over and over and over again. It just doesn't. Or you get new leaders. And that's on all the leaders in that locker room. This isn't pointed at one guy or one coach, but like, that was a disappointing loss. This was supposed to be kind of the middle bridge section. I'm looking at their schedule moving forward after the Colts game. Tell me where they're winning games. Are they going to go on the road and beat the Seahawks with the way they're playing? Probably not. Are they going to beat the Chargers? Maybe. Probably not. Are they going to beat the Rams, the Patriots, the 49ers, the Chiefs?
It's not happening.
They're going to win 4 or 5 games unless the offense just clicks and takes off, and that's what's going to have to happen because this defense is not holding anyone under 20 points. So we can stop acting like when the offense gets 20 points on the board, they can just take the rest of the game off and we can just turn our attention and blame the defense. Good teams score points, and when you know what happens when you score points, you have to score. You have to keep scoring, and you have to score on the next drive and the next drive, and you don't take your foot off the gas. You can't score 30 points in this league scoring on 3 drives and kicking your feet up and sipping a Mai Tai. You got to keep playing, and the Raiders just haven't been able to do that. The defense has to get them the ball back. They haven't done it. They have to get stops. They haven't done it. But in their defense, in 5 of these losses, they have given the Raiders offense the ball in the final 3 or 4 minutes, and the offense has not converted one time. And actually, this game, they did it twice.
Yes.
They actually got them the ball back twice with the missed field goal. So I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. Like, obviously, like we thought this team was going to turn a corner, learn the playbook, but you still have a lot of miscommunication on the routes with the quarterback. People don't know where to go. The defense doesn't know who to cover. Like, we're seeing a lot of things show up in week 9 that are acceptable in like week 1 or 2. They're not acceptable in week 7, 8, 9, 10. So Mark Davis can't be happy. I haven't been on Twitter, so I don't know what's going on. But I mean, if he was unhappy with last week, he should be even more pissed about this week.
And then, but I've seen that whole, but I've seen Carr in 2 and 3 years in the system, young at a receiver to go do this. You should have went to do. You should have did this. You should have did that. I've seen that before too. So,
And throw the ball away.
And throw the ball away. So, and not give a receiver a chance. So I'm not gonna sit there and I can't sit there and give him the benefit of that one. That one. There was an interview with Kelechi Osemele a while back when he was on the Raiders, and I think it was Greg Papa. And Greg Papa talked about he's always wanted to see like 4 down, like 3 down linemen and Khalil Mack just roaming the line of scrimmage, and then like maybe coming up to the A gap. And I remember Kelechi Osemele saying that's basically doing us a favor. Like him coming up the middle is doing us a favor. Like we know, like between me and the center, we can handle a pass rusher up the middle, which is perfect. So I think knowing that, I'm not going to put him up the middle in any possession. I'm going to have him be on the edge and do his thing on the edge. And I'm definitely not going to have him on a critical 3rd down playing DB. I mean, that's just something that, I'm just not doing that. You want to be, if you're up by a couple of scores and you want to like, and then there, and maybe you want to have him buzz the check down once in the blue moon, but not he's covering Christian Kirk, who's torching you over the middle of the field, which makes no goddamn sense as well. I think the thing too with Graham that really bothers me the most is I watched New England for years, and as good as Brady is, like if you do beat Belichick, you beat him doing something else, right? You don't beat him if you're a heavy rushing team. You don't beat him running the football right at him. He makes you do something else. Like, no, what game this year did he ever make somebody do something else? Something, every quarterback who they play is 25 for 30. Like, all these things like that. Nobody's uncomfortable. They don't take away anybody's prime weapon. Like, what are you doing during the week? Like, this whole offense is ETN. Like, what I mean? Like, the whole offense is ETN. Just the prior week, the whole offense is Kamara. Like, how does that? Like, how do you not be able to take? Part of it could be personnel, but part of it could be like there's no physicality at the point of attack. You have an opportunity to hit some of these guys, especially when they're going on in pass patterns, and you don't do any of it. And I think that's where I got more angst and more like disappointment from him. But I mean, it's a bad situation, but they built it. They built it. They went out there and got nickels. They went out there and got pieces they thought were gonna come through, and they had not come through at all. And I don't want to hear Albert Breer this week talk about how they're just doing a fine job and everything like that. I don't want to hear from the media that Mark Davis is going to close door meeting again. Like, dude, it got to get blown up. They got to get blown up. And it'd be painful. It could be, listen, if you do it right, it could be quick, but it's been 20, 30 years already. Might as well just take the time and do it the right way.
Yeah, you see all these successful franchises, we'll call them, and what do? They go out and get the rookie quarterback, and then they head up the quarterback. They go get the Herbert, they get the Hurts, they get the Tua, and those guys are playing well. Then you go spend the draft capital to get A.J. Brown. You go get Tyreek Hill. You build around them in year 2, 3, 4. What you don't do is take an aging quarterback who hasn't played near what he did for the last 3 or 4 years, what he did in 2016, and build around an old roster that doesn't have young talent. So right away, that was a misstep. As much as we love Devontae Adams, the Chandler Jones signing and giving up the assets for Adams at this point seemed like mismanagement of the roster. Like, and you need to compete. And we need to realize too what division they're in. You need to compete with Patrick Mahomes every year. This roster is not going to be able to do that. They may beat the Chiefs in a game here or there, but it's not a one-game season. You have to have a roster that can do it over 17 weeks, and you have to win 12, 13 games. I think going back to Patrick Graham, you're right. Like, they don't take anything away. Like, we do the pregame shows. We didn't do this one last week because I was out of town, but essentially that's what the Jaguars do. Trevor Lawrence wants to get the ball in the flat. He wants to throw the ball inside the numbers, inside the intermediate area, and they just let him do it the entire game. They didn't make him throw the ball deep down the field. They didn't make him push the ball, hold the ball. It was literally get to the top of my drop. Okay, I want to go here, open, throw it. I get to the top. When I drop, okay, I'm going to come over here. And, Paul, as much as Gus Bradley's defense gave up points last year, at least you didn't see guys blowing assignments. There was players that were picking up the street. They were doing one thing, and they did it so much everyone knew where to be and what to do. And then Graham's defense is kind of complex. They're running a whole bunch of different things, and you just see guys not understanding where to be, where their leverage is, and what adjustments to make. And it's not as bad as the Paul Gunther area, but I'm not going to say it's much better. And the blitzes, like you saw Jacksonville get a blitz that almost got home where they brought, a safety through the B gap. Like, every single one of Graham's blitzes is literally just have the defensive end crash in, bring the slot corner, bring a safety. He's blitzing off the edge. They're not getting guys free up the middle in the A or B gap that's really going to disrupt the quarterback. So the quarterback is responsible for the guy that's coming clean off the edge. And if he sees him, like, he can make the adjustment. He can throw the hot. He can spin out of there. Like, they're not making it hard on the quarterback. And I don't know defense anywhere near as well as Patrick Graham. I'm not an NFL defense coordinator, but, like, we can watch on TV and say, okay, he's coming from here. He's coming from. You can see it coming before the snap. And, like, it's always a free rusher off the edge that they can get. But the quarterback knows that, and he's responsible for that guy.
Yeah. I'm just looking. Jalen Hurts, 30 points this week. Team scores 30 points this week. Tua scores. What was the score of that game? Tua scores. Tua can't throw, but they score 37. They score 35 points in the same game. Justin Fields, 32 points. It's. I mean, I watch and I watch at amazement because this channel is USC and Raiders. That I'm watching DRT. I'm watching Caleb Williams. I'm watching some of these guys, Bryce Young yesterday, Daniels. Like, if you the offensive line play is not, the Anthony Munoz's of the world are not coming through college football. Like, the way they structure college football now, they have to be retaught how to play offensive line in the National Football League. So when they come, they're not usually ready to go. So, like, with that being said, like, you have to, like, get over that fact that you're not going to have a great offensive line. So if you have a pocket passer, he better be pinpoint accuracy, get the ball out quick, because when people blitz, they're going to get there. And now these teams are doing a great job of having guys who can move around. I mean, the only guy right now who I think was like really winning big right now this year, who is a kind of a standstill QB, is Kirk Cousins. Even Kirk Cousins has like a 20-yard touchdown run this year with the 7-1 Vikings. So it's, the Commanders are the biggest what show in the National Football League, and even they're 4-5. You know what I mean? Like, think about that for a second. They're selling their team. They, their owner is whatever. Like, all this stuff is going on there, and they're 4-5. So this is, for them to be one of the worst teams in football is really kind of and spending money. Like, Detroit being bad is good. It's fine for Detroit to be bad. Like, Texans being bad, they're just trying to do whatever. But, like, for you all to be bad and then spending all this money, that's the worst possible situation to be in.
Yeah, I was at the USC game, and I'd watch bits and pieces, but I got to see Caleb Williams in person. He didn't have his weapons. Like, obviously, there was not a lot of speed for USC on the field yesterday. But I think coming out of that game, and you asked me for a scouting report, the biggest thing I noticed, he was never flustered, but his ability to get out of the pocket, escape pressure, doing spin moves. He had one play where he spun out of two.
Yes.
And he just seems to always know. Like, he has a pocket presence about him. He knows and feels guys and just gets out of there. He doesn't get sacked very easily. And then he can pick up some yard. I don't think he's going to go out there and run like a 4.4, 4.5. Like, he can move, but he's not that twitchy, athletic. It's not Lamar Jackson. It's not Michael Vick, but he's going to be able to. It's the ability for him to sense what's going on around him and then find a guy. He's inaccurate at times. I didn't get to see him throw the ball down the field. They didn't throw a lot of long passes. It was basically underneath stuff, but just watching him maneuver in the pocket, I'm like, okay, there's something here. Obviously, he's coming out next year, so we'll be able to evaluate him even more. I'd like to see him on the field with Addison and Williams and some of the speed guys because they were running out there.
Yeah.
Some guys I didn't know who they even were. Michael Jackson the third goes off for 115 yards, but he's not fast. Like, he's not a twitchy guy. So I just thought that was interesting. But I think this team needs to literally look in the mirror at this point and say, this is what we have on the roster. This is what we have that's a controllable asset, and how much we have under contract, how many years we have them. Who can we build around at this point? I don't think trying to slap, I'm a Raiders fan too, so every free agent that's out there, I'm going to get excited in March. And I'm going to be like, sign this guy, sign this guy. But
Exactly.
this team's not at a point where they can go out and get another Chandler Jones and spend $17 million on a player who's regressing and he's not going to contribute. The players that are 24, 25, 26 to hit free agency are going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And some of those guys don't work out. The Raiders have signed a bunch of those. So, like, they really need to, look in the mirror where they are as an organization and say, you know what, Chiefs are ahead of us. The Chargers have a better roster. We can compete with the Broncos right now. Look around the AFC. This isn't just an AFC West. Like, where are the Bills? Where are the Bengals? Where are some of these rosters? Where are the Dolphins?
Where are the Jets?
Where are the Jets who keep winning? The Jets have a much better roster outside of Crosby and Adams. But, like, if you go 1 through 53, give me the Jets roster.
Exactly.
They have better players, cheaper players.
And they're winning
The
with
Jets
no
can go out and
quarterback.
spend money.
They're winning with no quarterback.
So I can't believe I'm saying this on November 6th. Like, if you would ask me before the season, I'm like, yeah, 10 wins, 10, 11, we'll go to the playoffs. But this team has severely underperformed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like there's a way out of it either. Like, they're losing to bad teams. They're losing in historical fashion. So I don't know. I mean, let's hope they beat the Colts next week. It'll be great to get to 3-6. But, like, there's a gauntlet coming in December, and this team is not prepared. It doesn't have the personnel.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, other than Darren Waller in a game or two with Renfro, this team's been fairly healthy this year. Yeah. I think I saw some injury index this year, like, based on, like, what percentage of their team roster has been hurt and how much it's affected them. They were like the 9th healthiest team in the NFL. This team isn't missing 3 or 4 stars on both sides of the ball. Well, they don't have 4 stars on defense, star players, so they couldn't. But, like, Nate Hobbs has missed time. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a season ticket holder. The last thing I want to do is go through field and, like, have to go watch games where they might win, 6 games in 1 year and hope to get to 8 or 9 year 2 and then be irrelevant in 25. But the way this team is built right now with the contracts they have and the age of a lot of these players, and there's no reinforcements coming in the middle of the bottom of that roster, this is going to look a lot like what happened at the end of Gruden's first tenure when he left and handed it over to Bill Callahan. You saw all those older players, the Rice, the Brown, the Gannon, the Rise and the Garner, the Wheatley, like, all those guys, Lincoln Kennedy at the end of the career, Bill Romanowski, and there was no talent left, and it all happened quickly. This team is about 2 years from being at that point. So, like, they need to make a decision of what they want to do moving forward. And I don't want to start talking draft in November, but here we are.
Here we are. We have to end the Bill Callahan era without the Super Bowl was parents. Yeah. Unfortunately.
The year after Bill Callahan.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, Red Nation. It was not fun times watching that. But I think, like, this is, like, they're making it. I mean, they are making it clear. Like, I mean, like, you have to be able to, even if you love number 4, you have to be. It's clear. Like, he's regressing. Like, I mean, he really is. And this is supposed to be a quarterback friendly offense. Supposed to be. I mean, it is. And it may be. And I did have an angry tweet today. I had a couple of angry tweets in this game, during this game. But I did press send. Sorry, Herman.
I deleted a few.
So I don't care if I get pulled into that stuff with the other side, but it's pretty clear, man. Like, I mean, it's time. So, like, it is what it is. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if it's time for just a whole new era, because with new coach and everything. Go ahead.
I would add, this isn't a complete indictment on this is all Derek Carr's fault, because there's only 2 sides of this. You're either extreme ends of this paradigm, but, like, if you really sit back and look at the way this roster is built, the age of this roster, where are the young players in year 1, 2, or 3 that are under contract for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and really think, okay, what is it really going to take to get this roster to a point where they can compete with the Bills and the Chiefs and the Eagles, and some of these teams are playing really well. And honestly, answer that question, it's probably 3 years away. Derek Carr's going to be 34, 35 with 5 more years of wear and tear on that body.
Yeah.
He won't be playing at a level good enough at that point. So it's probably a good time, or if they do want to stay with Josh McDaniels, is to make a move this offseason. I know that people don't want to hear that, and I don't want to go through a 6-11 season next year, or even worse than that. But at some point, it's going to have to happen. And I think they drug this on a year too far, and now you're seeing what's happening. The Patriots are always good at getting rid of guys a year too early, and it worked out.
Yeah.
But the Raiders are holding on to some guys, and then obviously, Devontae Adams isn't getting any younger. What's he going to look like 3 years from now? We saw what happened to Chandler Jones. It happened in like the middle of last season. It was just gone.
Yeah. I mean, look at. I mean, you think anybody in New England right now is missing J.C. Jackson?
No.
No.
I think the guys they have, they're doing a little better.
They're doing better. So, all right, Red Nation. Hopefully, we can. I mean, listen, it is what it is. You're 3-6. You are what your record says you are, and there's nothing we can do about it. All right, Red Nation. Take care. Thanks, Ryan.
Take care. Later.